Hello, my name is Keith Spaventa, and the purpose of this project is to understand how ethical decision-making at both a personal and corporate level affected the events that took place at Wells Fargo between 2011 and 2015. Let's get started. The presentation will begin with a basic introduction of the case and culture at Wells Fargo. We will follow with a list and discussion of the primary and secondary stakeholders. Once these people are identified, we'll take a look at some reasoning behind the outcome of the case and where things may have went awry. After identifying these traits, we'll put together the events that led to the scandal. We need to understand why the stage was set for an unethical event such as this. Finally, we'll finish up with some suggestions to help employees engage before getting into an ethical quandary. A company that dates back to the Wild West, using the famed stagecoach to transport the gold from what is known today as San Francisco to the markets out east, Wells Fargo held the title as the top bank until just recently. Today, Wells Fargo has assets just shy of $2 trillion and ranks at number 3. While the firm employs almost 269,000 people, it appears to have an issue with its ethical climate. Wells Fargo used a technique known as cross-selling. The intention was to show customers that Wells Fargo was equipped to easily manage all of one's finances under one roof. So, in order to promote these products, employees were held to high sales numbers and/or favorable bonus structure. Unable to meet these high targets, 5,300 employees managed to open approximately 2 million unauthorized accounts. Often the accounts were opened without the customer's knowledge, used for metric purposes, and then closed before interest or fees. The employees had learned how to do this in order to trigger a sale for their numbers without harming the customer. This fact will support the virtues of the employees. In this case, we find approximately 4 different groups of people that were directly affected by the decisions made. Of course, the customers would be the first group. Some customers suffered loss while others lost trust in the firm that handles their treasure. Employees rely upon a job at an institution that has good ethical values. A job can be difficult to go to every morning when it affects one's ethical virtues. Of course, shareholders will suffer from these decisions since the company fell from their reign after the scandal broke. Suppliers can also feel some negative effects, depending on what relationships they hold with Wells Fargo. The secondary stakeholders can also feel the effects. Employees' families will of course be affected by what had taken place. With this scandal taking place just a few years after the collapse of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns, the feds would surely be watching the industry under a magnifying glass. Finally, a community looking up to a historic bank with a history of ethical business is now falling to scandal. One of the greatest things that separates humans from any other species is cognitive ability. We are able to calculate decisions and are expected to make rational ones. Kantian theory suggests that we should act out of respect for moral law. This is a deeper ethical value that has us trained to make decisions for the simple good without the influence of penalty or reward. Utilitarian views of ethics are explained as the greatest good for the greatest number of people. This view is a very common when making decisions, especially in the business setting. This theory will be heavily looked at the Wells Fargo scandal, as research has suggested that the fact that over 5,300 employees were aware or involved in the scandal, there was premeditation and all the odds were weighed out. Finally, we will explore the virtues held by the employees. Virtues or traits that we possess and are recognized by others are very important. Where do these traits come from? Often our environment. A collision between values has definitely happened in the Wells Fargo scandal. We can see the effects of this when most employees would close accounts immediately as not to affect the customer's credit or subject them to fees. The harm was definitely weighed. Let's apply some of these theories to what happened over the span of several years. As discussed earlier, often business decisions are based on the utilitarian concept to do the most good for the most number of people. So in the eye of an employee, the pros would be that it would enable me to keep my job or qualify for a bonus, and the company's numbers also look good. As for the cons, as long as the fake account was deleted, there would be no harm to the customer. But with so many people involved, collusion cannot be excluded, since the offenses were very similar and done for the same reason. This was also an unethical decision to act against the law in order to make a point that could have been made another way. There were several consequences of the poor ethical decisions made by the employees at Wells Fargo. First and foremost was the tarnishing of the company's image and reputation. This ultimately affects everyone from primary to secondary stakeholders. Secondly was the loss of money to both the company, shareholders, and possibly some customers, although any fees or penalties associated with the scandal were returned to the customer. But the most concerning was the revealing of the ethical culture at Wells Fargo. CEO John Strupp ultimately lost his position at the firm due to the environment he had allowed to fester poor ethical values. Over the next several months, all the leadership at the firm was reevaluated and the push to rebound from the scandal began. An ethical environment starts from the top down. The CEO needs to set an example and ensure that the culture of the company follows the values statement they've committed to. They also need to regularly evaluate processes and procedures along with quotas to unveil any ethical gaps. Finally, with the focus from upper management, the Human Resources Department needs to step in and provide continuous training and evaluation of the current culture and business. Thank you, and have a great day.